Service. What is up, listeners? Welcome back to another episode of the Full Service Podcast. I am Tank Smith, your host. Today is episode 35. Thanks for being here. I had a solo episode last week, so today I have an interview. I am excited. My guest is a Tampa-based companion and former host of the Sexy Escort Guide podcast, Chantel Etoile. I guess we recorded this maybe it's been like a couple weeks ago now. But I'm excited. This is actually her first interview that she's done since leaving the podcast. So we talk about it all. We talk about her experience on the podcast, starting out in companionship, fucking wrestling. It's all, we cover it all. It's dope. You can follow her on Twitter, on Instagram, on OnlyFans at Chantel_Etoile. I'll have links to her social media as well as her website and stuff in the Libsyn page. So make sure you go to the Libsyn page, give her a follow. While you're there, you can follow her on social media too. Ooh boy, at Full Service Pod on Instagram and Twitter. My personal Instagram and Twitter is at TankFunkadelic. Give me a follow as well. If you enjoy the podcast, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. That would be amazing. We're on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube as well. That'd be cool. I normally, when I do like remote interviews, I'll do it use Zencaster. We actually use Anchor for this one. And I wasn't able to use like my good microphone because I did it through my phone. And when I listened back to it, like my mic was cutting out a bunch, but I was also recording separately with my mic. So I basically had to replace all the good on the bad audio with the good audio. So you might hear sometimes where you're like, yo, Tank, you sound kind of weird, dog. What's up? Hey, I just had to fuck with the audio a little bit. It just took like, good like 30 hours, but it was fun. But no, fucking, I'm excited. Yo, it's here. It's here. The interview. Chantel Etoile. Sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy. Thanks. What is up, listeners? Welcome back. It is Tank Smith. I'm so goddamn excited about this episode today. My guest is a Tampa-based companion, former host of the Sexy Escort Guide podcast, Chantel Etoile. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad we can make this happen. We're living in a crazy time right now. This is
I know, and admittedly, I did not know about your show, but a client of mine, he's a fan of your show, and we were having an overnight date a couple weeks ago, and he was like, hey, have you heard of this show? And then we were listening to it while we were in bed, and he was like, you should go on the show. So thank you, Mr. M, for that suggestion.
Hell yeah, Mr. M, dog. Shout out to Mr. M. Hey, hit me up. I'll send you a sticker, dude. Hell yeah, appreciate the hookup. Fuck yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad. In bed is the best place to listen to the podcast. I tell everybody. So yeah, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. No, you're based in Tampa. How's Tampa?
I am based in Tampa. Tampa is Tampa. It's a weird, interesting city. That's all I can say. I've been here forever. I will say the weather when it's not too hot is quite beautiful. The water, I'm a water baby. I need to be near water, so that's always nice.
Oh yeah, you got the beach right there.
I do. I have access to water, pretty much everywhere, easily access water, so that's always the best.
Oh yeah. Are you where are you from originally?
Oh man. Okay, so I saw this question on the list and I was debating, should I tell the truth or not? So I actually am a Floridian. I was born and raised right here in the Tampa Bay area.
Oh shit.
So if anybody has been following me for quite some time or following on the show, when I came up with Chantel, I didn't want anybody to know who I was. So I was like, well, the easiest way to do that is to say that I'm from the islands, right?
Nice.
A lot of the girls in the islands look like me. So I knew a guy that was from Martinique, and I do speak French. So I was like, perfect. I'll just be from a French island. So longest time I had on my ads on my website that I was from Martinique. And I stuck with that story until recently because it was just hilarious. Clients would email me and be like, "Oh, I've been to Martinique. It's my favorite island." And they would want me to tell them all about my childhood there. I was like, man, I've never been there. This sucks.
I feel like that'd be tough because it's like you gotta really do your Martinique research. You gotta.
I was committed. So fun fact, I've always wanted to be like a D-list actress. So coming up with Chantel was like my way to be like an actress and to just kind of like fulfill my own fantasies. And so yeah, I came up with it and I stuck to that story for a very long time. Now I would tell clients in person, I'd be like, no, I'm actually a Floridian, but some would even ask, oh, I don't hear an accent, and I even had a perfect story for that.
What's the story for the no accent?
I told them, well, I moved here when I was like 10. And, imagine moving here, you don't speak any English, and you have this accent. Kids picked on me. So I dropped the accent so that I wouldn't be picked on.
I guess that's believable.
I think I was saying that I've been here for about 20 something years.
Okay.
Being here for that long would make sense why I don't have an accent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you ever have anybody be like disappointed that you were like this was all part of my thing. Like I wanted to be with somebody who was from Martinique. Now you're saying Florida. This has shattered my reality.
Yes, I actually shattered. I like two that I can recall. Two clients where they had like some fond memories of being in Martinique, and
Damn.
they're like, the women are beautiful, like it's like my favorite island, my favorite vacation. And so it was like they were hoping that seeing me was going to bring a little bit back, memories back for them. And I was like, I am so sorry for shattering your dreams. I'm so sorry.
It's like you were his Ratatouille, and then now it's not. You're not even really Ratatouille, and then he's upset. Oh man.
Sorry. I mean, I would think by now that clients would expect that there's a lot of things that,
Yeah.
companions make up. I mean, if people are making up like the college degrees that they have, like I can make up what city I'm from or what country I'm from, right?
Are people making up college degrees?
I mean, I don't have exact proof, but yes.
Dang. I guess you gotta do what you gotta do. It's all marketing.
And this isn't shade. Like I'm not like talking about anybody specifically. It's just, over
Oh
the
yeah.
years, you would just read some of, the stuff that they write on Twitter, or you would see their website and just the construction, and then you'd sometimes meet people, and it's like it's
Oh,
very,
okay.
very obvious they're, not as educated as they're claiming to be.
Like you majored in English literature. I don't know if
And
that's
your
factual.
entire website has typos, grammatical errors. It's like just little stuff like that where like I don't have proof that they didn't major in it. Did they flunk out? I don't know, but I would imagine that there's some people that
Yeah.
make up things, and that's the only thing that I made up though, is like where I'm from. Everything
See, that's
else
not.
is pretty true to me.
See, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
From Martinique in quotation marks, living in Tampa. Hell yeah. That's. I saw you post on Twitter the other day a picture at a WWE match. Are you a wrestling fan?
Oh man, I am a huge wrestling fan. I am a wrestling nerd.
Fuck yeah. You got a favorite wrestler?
Okay, so my all-time favorite wrestler would have to be The Undertaker.
Ooh.
The Undertaker is actually what got me into watching wrestling. I want to say this was about 98. I want to say it was about 98, and
Okay.
my brother was turning the TV. And I think this was around the time when he had the Ministry of Darkness,
Ooh.
and he comes out with like the whole clique, Gangrel, all of them. And I think they were about to do like one of their sacrifices. And I guess I've always been attracted to darkness. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is just amazing. Like, I was so fascinated. Of course, I'm a kid. I'm thinking all of this is real.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. And then I have a thing, I'm a huge rocker. So I have a thing for guys with long hair and tattoos, the whole dark persona thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just became mesmerized. And then as a kid, I know I was such a terrible child. As a kid, I used to have fantasies about marrying the Undertaker. I was like, oh, he would just, I know he's going to be so good in bed. And, he'd
That's
have all
incredible.
these things like he could do to me. I used to think
I
about
wonder if he'll
this
hit me
as a
with the
kid.
choke slam.
Yeah, I was a strange kid for sure. So that started me watching wrestling. And then it just kind of took off from there. My favorite wrestler, like, active wrestler right now would be Drew McIntyre. He is just one luscious, large, gorgeous man. Oh,
Fuck yeah. I remember my favorite wrestler back in the day was Sting with WCW, and then if I had to go like WWF, it was probably Stone Cold Steve Austin.
oh, I was a hater of WCW for sure. I was
Oh,
like loyal to my brand. I half the stuff about WCW, I didn't learn until like the past like couple years when I joined the WWE network, of course. So
Oh shit.
I watch all the documentaries on there, and I'm like, so recently I was watching the Monday Night Wars. I was like, I did not know half of the stuff went on because I refused to turn to WCW.
damn.
I was loyal to the Undertaker. The Lord of Darkness. I was committed to my Lord.
The Lord of Darkness. That might be the name of the episode.
That was one of his personas. Like, he's
Yeah, yeah.
always been the Undertaker, but like over the years, he was like the American badass. He's the Lord of Darkness. He had all these mystical personas. So I was dedicated to my Lord.
I remember seeing a WrestleMania a couple of years ago when it was like he was undefeated and I think Shawn Michaels was undefeated, and then they were like maybe headlining WrestleMania. I can't remember who won. I think Undertaker might have won.
That was that WrestleMania performance still brings tears to my eyes. I wait, no, not that one. No, not that one. The one with Triple H.
Oh,
The
okay.
end of an era, that one brought tears to my
Damn.
eyes. I mean, because like just never again were you going to see like three of the most iconic wrestlers of all time in a ring together. I mean, that was just such a big performance. But the one against Shawn Michaels, that one, those are really tough to watch, especially knowing the injuries that they were suffering.
Oh my god,
And
yeah.
I mean, obviously, with the storyline, he was retiring because of his injuries. So those are really tough matches to watch because you could really see all the pain in their bodies while they're doing it. I know people think that wrestling is fake, and I really hate when people say that.
They're jumping off shit.
It is like it's scripted, like the shows are scripted, but it like they really do get injured. They really do put their bodies on the line. Fun fact, I don't know if most people know this. I talk about wrestling a lot, but I actually wanted to be a wrestler.
Really?
Yes, I was a huge fan of China.
Okay. Oh, China. Fuck yeah. Shout out to RIP China. RIP.
Yeah, so she actually followed me on Twitter. I have no idea how she even found my Twitter. I was brand new to Twitter. She followed me on Twitter like 2 weeks before she died.
No.
Yeah, it was like really sad. But I was a huge fan of hers just because, she was a woman in the ring fighting with the
Yeah.
men. I mean, I'm a really small person, so, I would never be believable in the ring fighting with the men. But I wanted to be able, to take those hits and bumps like just like the men do. And so after China, then there came Trish Stratus and Lita.
Okay.
And I wanted to be part of Team Extreme. I really felt like I was meant to be with the Hardy Boys. Another one of my
Damn.
huge crushes.
they're from North Carolina.
Oh, trust me, I know. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan. I know too much about them. And I am a little bit obsessed with Jeff Hardy. He was also somebody that I wanted to marry.
There's so many. There's
There's so many. I just have so many favorites over the years. But yeah, that's me and my wrestle story. I was supposed to be at WrestleMania this year.
Damn.
I had floor seats and it was going to be my
No.
first time at WrestleMania, and I was so bummed that, Corona has ruined so many people's lives. I mean, obviously
God.
I'm being dramatic,
Well, no, that is a loss.
It was an entertainment loss for sure. I mean, it was just absolutely tragic.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked up out here.
Yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. This is good already. Fucking wrestling. This is great. This is
Yeah.
Let's end it right now. No. So you work as a companion. How'd you get into companionship?
Oh, wow. Okay. So actually, I didn't know at the time that I would have been considered like a sex worker, but I think I was like 18 years old when I had my first sugar daddy. I used to work at a local grocery store, and I
Okay.
had this client that used to come in, and he would just give me gifts and money.
At the grocery store?
Yes, at the grocery store. Like one day he overheard me talking about needing a new pair of work shoes while I was like leveling the aisles, like when you straighten up the grocery aisles.
Yeah, yeah.
And he heard me talking about that, and like a couple days later, I guess he went to like one of my friends at work and asked what shoe size I wore. I wear a size 6, if anybody's wondering.
Size 6, people.
Size 6. So he actually asked one of my friends. She told him, and she was like, this is really weird. Like, this guy just like asked your shoe size. And a couple days later, like, I came out to my car after work, and there was a bag of shoes like hanging on my car. And I
Damn.
was like, I didn't know who brought them though. And then one day he came in and was like, he's like, oh, I like your shoes. And I was like, oh, it was him. And so then he started, he was just like, give me money. He'd give me presents, and he followed me from the grocery store to being a bank teller to when I worked at Hooters. So that was like my first introductory. And
That's
after
awesome.
that, I just started, like, I've always dated older men, so that was not like weird for me at all. And this was like before seeking arrangements was like a thing. So that was like my introduction to it. But after, like, over the years, the online sugar dating sites got really watered down. It just became like just awful.
Okay.
So then one day, like, I had a friend that was a friend of the family that was actually an escort, and I knew she was an escort for a long time. And she told me, like, listen, girl, you could get paid by the hour and make a lot more.
Yeah.
And so it was 2015. I was working as an accountant in corporate America. And I woke up one day and I was like, I fucking hate my life. So I quit my job and was like, hey, girl, I need you to show me the ropes because I'm done.
Damn.
I came up with Chantel, and that's that.
So you actually quit your job before you actually started full on escorting. You're like, I'm doing like.
Yes, I don't recommend that. Just in case anybody's wondering, I do not recommend that. I am one of those people. I'm a free spirit. I just do whatever comes to mind. And that's what I did. I woke up that morning. I was like, I can't fucking take it anymore. And I quit. I started freelancing though for a bit.
Okay.
That took me to some fun places. I spent some time in Italy working for a company. I was helping some local startups with their accounting and figuring out, their life. That became a drain.
Damn.
So actually before I was Chantel, but I was really nervous about like being arrested. So I only had like a couple clients, and then I actually started doing webcam. So I was a
Okay.
full-time webcam model for about a year and a half.
Oh shit, nice.
I wasn't escorting for some time, and then I was like, I don't want to do camera anymore. Like, I'm really shy. I know people probably would never know that, but I'm really camera shy. So I would have like anxiety before going on camera, and actually even hosting a podcast, I get nervous right before we would hit that record button every single time. Even today, I was nervous about today.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm like, man, you can do this thing. You
I'm
got this.
always nervous. So after that, I was like, oh man, I'm so much more natural, like in person. So I was like, you know what? I'm going back to in-person meetings. So I went back to it.
Hell yeah. Did you have anybody like to kind of like help you along the way? I know you knew that that other person who was working as an escort. Are you kind of doing this by yourself? Like,
So she like introduced me to it, but she kind of was like from the old school days of like, you place an ad, your phone starts ringing, and that's just life, right? So
okay.
she was stuck in that old school mentality that just was not working anymore in 2015. And so she taught me how to do things the wrong way. um, she was like, yeah, you put an ad up on Backpage, you list, you come out for $200 and then you upsell. And
Oh, okay.
I tried that one time and I swear to God, I felt like my life was in danger. Not like, I mean, the guy was like really cool, but I could just see the anger in his face, like this bait and
Yeah.
switch. And
Yeah.
I thought it was totally normal. I thought that's what everybody did. And so I ended up talking to a girl and she was like, no, like that. I mean, maybe like, white girls can do that, but you're a black girl, you can't do that kind of shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, there's just, things that you can't get away with. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to set my price. So I was like, all right, well, you know, what do I want to, what's going to be worth my time? And so I was just like, all right, I'll do $400. That way I don't have to haggle with people. I don't have to
Yeah.
bargain. I don't have to do any of that. Like $400 an hour, done.
Yeah.
And then I met, I actually still haven't met her, but there's a companion based in Minneapolis. Her name's Victoria Sloan. And she was down in Florida for something and reached out to me. And we ended up talking. And that is where I learned everything because she
Fuck
told
yeah.
me about getting a website. Like I mean, it was like day and night. Like I went from, just, Backpage and arrows to like having a website and not having to deal with like all the phone calls and stuff. Like that changed the game for me. And, it's just been going up ever since.
Fuck yeah. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
I feel like you need somebody. Is it helpful to have like somebody you can like bounce ideas and stuff off of, or like a mentor? I guess is that helpful?
Oh, absolutely. She was, I mean, and for somebody who never, like, I'd never met her, she was a huge support system for me for a while. I was able to ask her questions, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to start that podcast because I was so grateful that somebody took the time to help mentor me and make sure that I was doing things the right way and being safe. And I mean, it really changed my life drastically. So I wanted to give back because one-on-one mentoring is exhausting. It is a lot of work. So it's like, if there was like a podcast where people could listen to it,
Yeah.
that way they can get that kind of mentorship without, having to bother someone or ask someone or, pay someone.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, just I will be eternally grateful for Victoria's help. I will never forget that because she did not have to do any of that.
Fuck yeah. That's so nice. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like when I started doing stand up, just like being able to like reach out and talk to somebody who's been doing it for a while, and then they like help, they give you advice or they help like kind of be like, oh, you should do this, say something this way or do something different, and you're like, holy shit, I never even thought of that, and then it just like changes the whole way you like almost think about comedy or think about whatever you're doing. Um,
Exactly. And then you're not like struggling so much. It's like it's like almost like, this industry has, is the oldest job ever. And it's like, you get in, you're new, you don't really know things. And it's like you start trying to reinvent the wheel because you just don't know any better.
yeah,
Then you're like, it's just so much work. And it's like, wait a minute, there's a reason why people have been able to be successful. And it's like, just kind of sit back and watch. So that, that was really helpful. Like, I just can't even just
yeah,
so helpful. And now, a lot of people, the industry can be very catty, and a lot of people are, always like, you don't have friends and all this stuff. And I disagree. I have a small core group of women that have been a major support system for me for the past couple years. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I don't know where I would be without them. I don't even know if I would still be a companion if it wasn't for these girls. Like, if I have a rough day, I have these girls, we have group chats that, we talk to each other, we help each other through things when we're having a rough day. Just you really, it's a good, I have a really good support system around me. And
Fuck yeah.
shout out to my ladies. I won't name them because, some people like to remain private, but I think you can pretty much see my interactions on Twitter with, with who I surround myself with.
Yeah.
And, but they've been, huge support systems for me. And hopefully I've been as much of a support system for them as well.
Hell yeah. Did like I feel like the longer you do something, like the better you ultimately get at it. Do you feel like there was a beginning in like escorting where you like weren't good? Is that
Yes, actually. And it wasn't even necessarily like the beginning, I'll say, like maybe about a year or so ago, where um the thing with this is you go online, you see the women that you idolize, you see the classy, elegant women, and it looks like they're getting all the trips and the fly me to use, and they're going on the paid vacations, right? So you see that, and then you kind of start to emulate them, like,
yeah.
naturally, right? You want that stuff, so you feel like this is what you have to do to get it.
Yeah.
And so I will say where I was bad at escorting was I wasn't being true to myself. And it wasn't until somebody recently told me, like, we were discussing like our goals, right? Like, it's good to have these companion friends so you can discuss what are your goals in life. And we were talking about goals, and I was telling them, some of the goals that I have, and I was like, I struggle with being my authentic self. So I'm telling this group of girls about some wild stories from my past, and they were like, holy shit, Chantel, like, that's not possible. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you look boring as hell. And I was like, I look boring? And they're like, yeah, you look boring. Like, your Twitter, everything about you, like you're basically, my marketing says that I'm a boring time. Take me to brunch, but I'm not going to have much personality. And I was like, oh my God, is that what clients think of me? Like,
Damn,
I have
yeah.
no idea. And it's funny because after they mentioned that, I started thinking about conversations I've had with clients, and they're always surprised by, like, I get when they meet me, and then when we start talking and I open up, they're always like, wow, you're like actually really cool. And I was always
Actually,
thinking to
really.
myself, like, why do people say that as if it's a shock? Like, what did they expect? And then it clicked, like, oh, well, I didn't realize that my marketing was coming off as like some, like really stuffy. Like, some girls, they could get away with that branding, but I guess for me, that branding did not work.
Yeah.
And so I will say that, so like maybe the past like 4 years, I was bad at escorting because I wasn't being true to myself. And then it was also, I didn't want to be called out, like if somebody locally like thought it was me, I didn't want anybody to be like, that's definitely her. And then I was
Okay.
I was also afraid of people, I mean, I'll say that I don't actually care if people judge me, but if it affects my money, then I care, right? So
Yeah.
like, so let's say if somebody were to, be like, oh, she likes rock music or she's a wrestling fan, I'm not going to book her based on that. That's when I care. So I wasn't sure, like, I know that, I'm a Black girl. I know that, typically Black women are not hardcore metalheads. So I'm like, is that going to turn off a client?
Fuck that.
So, well, of course, fuck that. But if
Yeah.
I'm not being booked, right?
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
like, so then like that's where it's like I'd like to not care, but if I'm not being booked, then of course I'm going to care. So it was like struggling to decide, like, do I show more of my authentic self? And so for 4 years, I was suppressing that. I was hiding that. Now I'm like, there are clients that have found out these things about me. Like, I actually had a client, this was what, 2018, I believe. Yeah, 2018.
Okay.
He actually met me from phone sex, and we got to chatting, and we would just have like actual like conversations about life, about interests in music. And I opened up to him and told him that I was a huge fan of Lamb of God. And he
Okay.
was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So we had many conversations about music and, our favorite bands. And he bought me like VIP side stage tickets to a Lamb of God show in Nashville, Tennessee. And
Damn, that's nice.
I went to Nashville to see Lamb of God because he gifted me these tickets. So it was like, so after that, it was like, yeah, I should feel a little more open. So I think it was around last fall, I started being more open about that because I made a Twitter post. I was going to see Disturbed, and I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna post it. I posted a picture of me and my rocker uniform. This is what I look like when I go out to concerts. Like, it's completely like opposite than what people were used to seeing Chantel as, and I actually got great feedback from it.
Do you feel like people have been definitely more receptive of you being more open, like in your authentic self, or is it?
I honestly, yeah, it's been great. It has been really great. I cannot complain about it. Like, my only regret is not doing it soon enough.
Yeah, I think it's like it's almost like a fear thing too, and like or acceptance, and like, are people gonna accept me as this like person, or like there's a lot to it.
Like, I was like, are people going to book me for those longer dinner dates? If they think that, they're not going to be able to relate because I listen to, Metallica or Lamb of God. But luckily, Metallica is pretty universal. Everybody loves
Yeah,
Metallica. So that's like a good sector in between before I tell people that I listen to like death metal.
yeah.
So some of the bands I listen to, people are like, I just tell them, I'm like, don't Google it. You might look at me differently.
Just accept it. You don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, you don't have to listen to it. But if you do decide to go down the dark path, I'm like, there I went to see in November, I went to see Thy Art Is Murder. They're an Australian band. Fucking love them. One of my longer bands that I'm obsessed with is Chelsea Grin. And people hear Chelsea Grin and they're like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm not crazy. Like, I love I love the instruments. Like, the instruments and the rock music. Like, I mean,
Fuck yeah.
people talk about mood setting music.
The energy at metal shows is fucking incredible.
Oh my God. You want to talk about like bringing out my sexual prowess, turn on some metal. I mean, some of the best experiences I've had in my life is me and a partner listening to metal music. And I mean, and I'm talking about like romance, like not like bondage dominatrix stuff, just like pure, just utter, just like romance, just fire, passion, like listening to our favorite bands. And
Turn on.
I'm like, it's amazing. I mean, I obviously play different music with my clients because it's, metal isn't their thing. But if there are any clients out there that get off to metal, I'm just saying, I'm your girl.
Fuck yeah.
I am your girl.
How have you felt about showing your face in ads when you started and like now?
So I don't show my face. For the first couple years, I did a heavy blur. But then I did come out to my family.
Okay, sweet.
I did show my face when I was doing webcam.
Okay.
And then that's a crazy story in itself. But when I stopped doing webcam and I started going back to in-person meetings, I went back to blurring my face. And then after I came out to my family, which wasn't actually I didn't fully come out until they knew that I did webcam, but I didn't fully come out as an escort or companion until last summer.
Okay.
After that, then I was like, okay, like I still want a little bit of privacy, but I can at least like, just kind of get away with wearing sunglasses.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I actually wish that I could show my face. I go back and forth with it just because there's some days like, guys are all like, I have a OnlyFans and guys are always like, post selfies. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what am I going to do? Take a picture of my face and then blur it? Like,
I know, right?
and I've been told, my face isn't ugly. So, it's like, so why hide it kind of thing. But it's just at this moment, just out of respect for my mom and my siblings, their future careers, I'm just going to kind of stay blurred so that it doesn't negatively impact them if somebody does find out.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, I was listening to episode, I guess it was last year's when you were doing the podcast, and you were saying like you came out to your brother before you were about to go to Europe, and like that was such like just like a weight kind of off your shoulders.
Yeah, so I went to Australia. And I was like, well, somebody, like, if something happens to me, somebody needs to tell my mom. I don't want my mom finding out from the news that her daughter was an escort. Like, they knew that I, was a webcam model and I did phone sex, but they didn't know that I was like an escort. So I was like, all right, like somebody needs to know. So I did tell him. Now, he does keep all of my secrets. So he, of course, did not tell my mother. But it was a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders because it's like, it's like just the line, it starts to get to you after a while. I mean, not for everybody, but for me. And I will say that it is a privilege. Like, I do not take it lightly that I have the privilege of coming out to my family and they fully accepting me for who I am.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
That is a major privilege that a lot of women do not have. And I do not take that lightly. And I wish that everybody could experience that, but they can't because, some family members are not open or extremely religious. And my heart goes out to those people. But for me, it was just like exhilarating. So like now it's funny because now like when I tell like as far as my family goes, I just refer to it as work.
Yeah.
And so if I'm on the phone with my mom or my sister, they'll be like, "Oh, do you have to work tomorrow?" And it's become like quite normal.
Hell yeah.
It's become very normal.
That support system has to be nice. Just having them know and accept it. Has to be.
It really is because it was strange. Like I was very proud of the podcast, the work that we did on the podcast, and we wrote a book. And I was very proud of it. And I shared that with my family. But at the time, I didn't tell them that I was an escort. So I could never tell them the name of the podcast. I couldn't show them the book. Like I couldn't do any of these things. And so now it's like, now that I'm able to share that with them, it's like, oh, hey, here's the book that we wrote, hey, look at these photos from a photo shoot that I did. And my mom and my sister, like, they love looking at my photos.
Fuck yeah.
Obviously, I don't send them nude photos, but like my photos that are on my website, of me like in dresses and, bikinis or something like that. They're like, oh my God, like those photos look so great. And, so it's really cool to have that support system.
Hell yeah. Have you been in a relationship since starting escorting?
So that's actually a really good question. So my last relationship, which is why I started doing webcamming, I was an escort and then I decided that I wanted to get together with my ex. And so we both kind of felt that it would be better if I did webcam instead of in-person meetings, because that even kind of felt a little bit weird for me because I was still new. I would say I wasn't fully like confident within myself to be like, hey, this is just a job, right?
Yeah, okay.
Take out feelings, this is just a job. So this is very like, I would say like 5 months into me trying to escort. And I was like really part-time escorting, honestly, because I was still doing freelance accounting work. So I started doing webcam and then he started getting jealous of even doing the webcam.
Oh shit.
That did not last. And he actually was so jealous that he tried to out me.
Really?
Yeah, he threatened to out me. So I was like, hey, guess what? I don't know if anybody knows this about me. I'm one of those people that like I will blow up my life before I let you do it. So I give zero fucks. I'm just one of those people. Like, I don't have anything to lose. Like, what do I have to lose? I already like left my career. What am I going to lose? Money, possessions? Like,
yeah.
Nothing is more important to me than my family. So it's like, on that aspect, there's not much anybody can do to me that can harm me. So I was like, fuck you, dude. And so when I realized he was trying to do that, I was like, hey, I drove to my mom's house and I was like, hey, mom, I need to talk to you. And so I told my mom, I was like, hey, mom, I'm a webcam model. And she was like, what does that mean? And I was like, well, I'm basically an internet stripper. And she was like, oh, okay. And so then, she asked, well, why did you, decide to tell me? And I said, oh, because he said that he was, he got drunk one night and was mad and said he was going to out me to my family. And of course, I can't let him steal my thunder.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck you, dude. I mean, obviously that relationship ended, but yeah. So when I told my mom that he was threatening to out me, my mom was like, she immediately was like, oh, nobody threatens my baby.
Nobody outs my baby.
She's like, fuck him. So yeah, so she became, so I kind of like, I eased her into my sex work life. She found out that I had like a sugar daddy like a few years before, and she didn't like that at first. And then it's like I've given her little steps, and then now I'm like, hey mom, I'm a full-fledged escort. I have a website. I charge these rates. And then she's like, so I kind of eased her into that.
I feel like if you ease them into it, that kind of helps a little bit,
Yeah. because this is like, I worked at a phone sex place, like while I was in college, and I did the sales calls, right?
Okay.
And my mom was even upset about that. And I got fired because I couldn't do the sales because guys would want to talk to me and instead of paying. So they would talk to me, and while I'm getting their credit card information, they just wanted to hear my voice. So they would just jack off while I'm, getting their information, and then they would hang up. And I'm like, well, what do you guys want me to do? Like, they're like, it's not my fault. They find my voice sexy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. Like, they were like, oh my God, your voice. Like, can I just talk to you? So they were like, well, you want to work on the actress side? And I told my mom, and my mom was like, no way, like disgusted, like at the thought of like these guys jacking off to, me talking to them. And I'm like, so I'm thinking, like, looking back now, my mom probably would have been like, yeah, stick with that.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's like pretty quick, right? Where you exchange the credit card info. That's a quick. They're pretty fast.
No, the process actually takes like 3 minutes. So like these guys are calling, like they're charging by the minute, right? So these guys, they call, they're already like halfway there, right? They're trying to they're trying to save their coin, so they're already halfway there. And then, they would be like, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Can you repeat that number back to me again? Oh, wait, God. I think you got the wrong number. Repeat it to me again. And it's like, after that, it's like I realized what they were doing.
Like, can you read back my address? I want to make sure the address is
right. And guys would just tell me, like, I really don't give a fuck what you're saying. Just keep talking. Like, they did not care what was coming out of my mouth. They just wanted to hear my voice. And I was like, man, this sucks.
You should just call Walmart and then ask for a department, then have them go check on a product that they don't have, and then
right. Like... You would think that guys would do that, but no, they don't want to do that.
I guess, I feel like I also have that problem too, to where like people are hearing my voice and they're like, oh, this is nice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but to get fired because of it, that really sucks, man, because I needed that job. I was in college.
That's fucked up. You can't, because you're fired. That's like just being fired for being too good at your job. Right?
No, I was technically not good at my job because I didn't meet the sales quotas.
Oh, okay.
They were like, you need to try harder. And I was like, literally, me speaking isn't working. Like, I'd have to be sent, like, do you guys have like an online chat where I could just type? Maybe I could convert some sales, but as long as these guys are hearing my voice, like, I mean, when I tell you my sales numbers were bad, I think my conversion rate was like less than 10%.
Damn. Yeah, that's pretty
Because
bad.
guys would like really they just wanted to talk to me. And I've never liked the sound of my voice. So when people tell me that they love the sound of my voice, it's still very foreign to me. I'm just like, I don't know what people are hearing, but people like
Yeah.
it. I won't fight people over it, but hey, I'm just like, I don't get it, but you made me lose my job, guys. Thanks.
You're like, if you say so, I guess. Yeah, hell yeah, I'll take
I
it.
guess. I mean, if you hear it more than like a handful of times, like I guess I should start believing it. But when I hear my own voice, it's just like, eh. But I think everybody has that problem, right?
Yeah, once you hear it back, you're like, what the fuck is this?
Do I really sound like that?
Yeah. Have you ever developed feelings for anybody while escorting?
Like romantic feelings where I thought that like I could just like drop everything and run away kind of thing.
Yeah, let's say that.
Um, no, no, I have not. I have had clients that I've been very fond of, and that, when, that kind of time has passed, it's sad. But I'm a realist, so I know that these guys are not hiring me to want to marry me one day.
Yeah.
But I do miss them as clients. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I've had great experiences. Like, I will say one of my earlier favorite clients I actually met when I was doing webcam. I wasn't supposed to, but somehow he like he found like my Skype or something. Like, I made it very easy for guys to find me off site. So he found me and we started chatting, and he was my like, virtual client for, I want to say, about 8 or 9 months. And then I was like,
Nice.
hey, you do know that I'm available to see in person. And he lived in Dallas. So he flew me out to Dallas like 2 weekends in a row. And then we started seeing each other like at least once a month. And then he actually took me on a work trip with him overseas. We spent
Nice.
a week in London together. So that was really amazing. So, he's, of course, there's distance and, the whole, time to get married for the family thing happened. So, he's moved on, and, I actually, the last time we saw each other was last year. We went to Vegas together, and that was that was more of like our kind of goodbye trip.
Okay.
We knew that, he couldn't continue seeing me if he wanted his relationship to work out. So it was bittersweet. I miss him dearly, but, I hope that he's doing well in life. But no, I never like fell in love, but I do have clients that I care deeply for. Like, I really care about them, not just as a client, but just as like a person that's in my life. Kind of like, kind of like Mr. M that introduced me. He's been a client of mine for a little over a year, but we have like this great special bond, and he's a really special client to me. So I'm very grateful to a lot of these wonderful client relationships that I have.
Hell yeah. Do you feel like attraction plays a role at all in seeing clients?
So I will say that I would love to give that PC answer that would make everybody happy, but I'm going to speak true to myself.
Hell yeah. Hit it with that truth.
Okay, so for me, I am really big on personality, right? So this is one of the reasons why I prefer longer dates. Because even if I'm like, just like I meet a guy and, he walks through that door and he could look like the Undertaker and I would want to jump his bones. But I am one of those people, like, I can't really open up and like just really enjoy myself until I have that emotional connection. So for me, like the 1 hour date, I'm not saying that I'm faking it or anything, but like I need a little more than just a physical attraction. I need that emotional attraction. I love intelligent men. I love nerds. I really love nerds. Took me a long time to admit that to myself. But I found myself, like, I had a client for a couple years in a row. He would come down here for a conference, and he was a neuroscientist. And we would spend most of the weekend just talking about, his job and everything, and about space and quantum physics, and I would just find myself getting so like worked up, just like the exercise of my brain. Like he's, telling me about these things that, I do like to read, and I like to do my own research on things, right? But I'm going to be honest, it's not like I'm sitting here reading the scientific journal, because I don't have time. My background is in finance. I have other things going on. So I don't have time to leisurely read scientific journals. But if somebody were to send it to me because they were like, oh, hey, check this out, I thought you'd be interested, it's like, oh my God, thank you so much for sending that to me. So like,
oh yeah,
we're just talking about these things, and I'm learning so much, and I'm soaking up all the knowledge that he's teaching me. I love men that can teach me something, like nothing sexier than that. And I find myself just getting so turned on by these kind of things. So physically that helps. I won't say that it doesn't help. It definitely helps. But I need that personality, that emotional, that intelligence factor for sure.
Fuck yeah. So I got a question, right? Hot or not, Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Oh my God.
He's a nerd. What are we?
I'm so sexually attracted to him. I am.
My boy Neil.
Oh my God. I'm just like, oh man.
You're like, tell me about the ship of the imagination.
Oh my God. I watch like anything that he's on. I like him, like so when I was a cheerleader. I opened up about that on Twitter several months ago. But I grew up as a cheerleader. And so for the longest time, people just assumed that I wanted jocks, right? Like I needed that athlete. Yeah. So even now, people who don't really know me, they think that, oh, because I'm not some athletic stud and blah, 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 you're not going to be interested. And I'm like, oh my God, actually, athletes tend to be the worst for me, just because it's like they rely on their looks and their muscles. That does nothing for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Drew McIntyre. I love to look at him. But some of my favorite wrestlers that I like, just for an example, like Braun Strowman, right? He's a tall guy, like he's fucking huge, but he's not like, he's a little, I don't know what to call it, like a little doughier, right? He's not like chiseled abs, 8-pack. He kind of has like that, a little bit of dad bod going on, and
foam padded steel. That's what I like to call it.
I am a huge Braun Strowman fan. Like I like really tall guys, but it's not that they're tall. I think it's more like I'm obsessed with me being short, and I like how tall guys make me feel short.
Do you feel like, have you ever used like Tinder, like Bumble kind of shit?
I tried to use Tinder. I got kicked off in one day. But otherwise, yeah, I don't use any of that stuff. I have an OnlyFans, and that's already enough work. Like, I'm so sorry, guys. I haven't posted in a couple days, but I'm trying to like get a section cleared in my condo for me to film. So just bear with me.
Because you'll see the height thing on there where it's like, I only want dudes at least 6 foot. On Tinder, you'll see that a lot.
See, I would never do that because, like, again, I'm attracted to the personality, right? So even if a guy isn't, 6'7", it's not mean that I'm not going to be attracted to him. It's just, I do also like guys that are like 6'7". Like, I love guys that are 6'7". I'm only 5 feet tall, 5 feet 0 inches. So I mean, so anybody is taller than me. So it's not hard to be taller than me. I like the giant factor because it just makes me feel really small, dainty. I'm very, very feminine. So it kind of makes me feel like a little more feminine when the guys are like these just giants.
I mean, I'd like a 6'7" tall chick too. That'd be cool. Also, that'd be
How
sweet.
About a 6 foot chick? Because I can introduce you to 3.
I know a lot. Yeah.
I know. I can introduce you to 3 ladies right now if you want at least a 6 footer. they're beautiful, gorgeous ladies. I can introduce you if that's your thing, for sure.
I do see it on Twitter. They'll like lead with the 6 foot in their like description of their like name or
I mean, they
whatever.
have
I'm
legs
like,
for
okay,
days. Like I'm
yeah.
proportioned, but I don't have legs for days. Like I'm 5 feet tall, so my legs end. They definitely end.
That's good.
Just a little tiny compact human being with huge tits. It's really weird.
Hell yeah. Do you feel pressure in a session to live up to clients' expectations at all?
I used to. Now that after the kind of review culture died down just a little bit, that's gotten better. And I would tell people all the time, if I have to live up to an expectation, you're not going to have that much fun with me. I'm one of those people that feed off of other people's energy. So if your energy is like, I definitely am good at reading people, right? So if I walk into a session and I could see in their brain, it's like, is she going to do this, this, and this? Like they're like that checklist there that's going off in their head.
Yeah.
I can sense that. And I'll be like a robot. It's not that much fun. But when it's just like, hey, neither of us know what to expect. We're like in there, we're meeting for the first time and we're like just getting to know each other and exploring pressure is off. Like I'm just like relaxed. I'm having a fantastic time.
Hell yeah. Do you feel like being a black woman, your experience has been different at all from like white providers?
So yes. It's kind of a hard question because I've never been a white provider, so I can't say what it's like to be one. But just from what I see, and not even just like being a companion, right? Just society in general.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I know that I am going to get a ton of shit for it. And frankly, I don't really care because it's my experience. But yeah, it is very different. And I will say that for a white woman, you just have to not be ugly, right? And I'm not saying that white women are ugly. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you just have to not be ugly, and society thinks that you're drop dead gorgeous, right? You just have to not be ugly. So it's a lot easier for white companions as far as like marketing and everything. If they're actually trying. Of course, you have girls that are drop dead gorgeous that think they're just going to get by on their looks, and it doesn't work out well for them because you actually do have to put in some work into being a companion, right?
Yeah.
But for Black women, what I've learned over the past 5 years from doing, I've pretty much done almost every line of sex work except for being a stripper. So from being a Hooters waitress to being, escort, a cam model, phone sex, all of it, for Black women, you have to be well above average looking to even be considered pretty. Like, does that make sense? So white women, just not be ugly and you could be gorgeous. Black women, you have to be like a bombshell just to be recognized as pretty. And it reflects in your clientele, and no matter how confident you are in yourself. But if you were to be like, oh, well, I'm confident, I know I'm a bad bitch, I know I could charge whatever I want, guys are going to pay it. Well, the market says otherwise, right? So the market kind of reflects that there is a huge difference. I'm very lucky that, that I can charge the rates that I charge, because I've gotten many emails when I was on webcam and I was like, I think I was like $4 a minute. Like when I got really good at it, and I was like $4 a minute, and I creeped up to like $4.50 a minute. I literally had guys tell me like, you're Black, right? You should be charging $2.50 a minute, and $2.50 because you have huge tits. And so
otherwise it would be $2.
Yeah. So then so it's like, I hear these things. I've had emails from guys that like, oh, your rates are too high for a Black woman. And this was when I was at my lower rates. And it was like, dude, what the fuck? So it's like, and I know that companions experience time wasters, but I will say that there's a huge difference in the frequency that Black providers kind of receive that kind of feedback from, you know, my white counterparts. And this is no shade to white women, of course. Like, it's not their fault, you know. It's not their fault. This is just how society is. Like, I'm just being honest. This is society, but am I going to wallow in it? No. I just, you know, it is what it is, and I just, you know, I just do whatever I do that's best for me.
Fuck, I mean, that's all you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know you you mentioned reviews a second ago. How do you feel about review websites?
I hate them. Reviews are like a double-edged sword, right? I feel like, you know, especially in the age of the internet where you have scammers. And I mean, I've heard of guys who would use pictures of women or use women to, you know, to get the money from, and they'd be the one, you know, responding to these guys to get money from them, and then, you know, they just never show up to appointments. I mean,
that happened to me last month.
Oh
so.
no! Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, and then you hear of we've all heard of the companions that do terrible shit. You know, they steal deposits and stuff. On that aspect, I say that, you know, a review of like, hey, I've met her. She's a real person. She looks like her photos. You know, she's not a bait and switch. And, you know, she provides a great service. You know, like I have no complaints.
Yeah.
But the review of like rating us on a scale of 1 to 10 on our looks, I mean, looks are they're so subjective. Like, what one guy likes doesn't mean another guy's gonna like it. You know, there's so many different body types. Some guys, you know, like the very athletic bodies. Some guys like bodies that are, you know, more soft. You know, like, so what? I deserve to get a 5 because I don't have an athletic body? You booked me, right? So it's like one of those things. It's like we're being rated on stuff that's based on, it has nothing to do with like whether or not we're going to provide a good service. And like, you know, the site that will never be mentioned out of my mouth, you know, they have the rating of like the service acts. And I remember I had a client that was trying to give me a 10 because he enjoyed our date. And they were like, she didn't do X, Y, and Z. You can't give her a 10. He was like, I didn't want X, Y, and Z. So why should she be rated on something that I didn't even want to do in the first place? Like, that's not fair. And that's where the hatred for the review sites come.
Yeah. It's all so subjective, and it's like, yeah, I'm like, I had a 10 time with this person, but I can't because we didn't do this other thing. Like, that's ridiculous.
and it's like, and that's where that, you know, back to that pressure question. That's where the pressure came in, because it's like you wanted to make sure that you checked off all those things to make sure you got a good rating. And it's like, no, it's like it wasn't authentically me, and I love being my authentic self. You know, like in my personal life, I am 100% me. Professionally, it's like, you know, I walk a fine line. Do I be really authentic, or, you know, do I keep that fantasy for people? And the review sites definitely made that worse, made it so much worse.
Yeah.
Damn, that makes sense. Just feeling pressure to live up to this thing. Oh, because I want to get a good review. Like, want to get
exactly.
Like, I equate a little bit to like comedy, because it's like I could see a comedian and I'm like, oh my God, they're so funny. And then I could show that same video to somebody else, and they're like, I didn't really think that was funny.
Right? Comedy is very subjective.
Like, yeah.
Like, you know, people really have very hard feelings about Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. If you would have come at Dave Chappelle, motherfuckers will fight you.
I particularly like Dave Chappelle, because I do have that. I like that dark humor, you know. That's kind of like, you know, the reality. If we can't laugh at life, then we're just going to be miserable all the time, right? You know, there's truth to something. So everything is always subjective. So these ratings that are based on like these like such like hardcore standards, it's just like hard. And then a lot of it is like, if you weren't providing unsafe services, you could only get a max score. And it's like, so you're not even trying to promote safety. You're just promoting like what a guy can get, and the more riskier you are, the better score you get. And that's, I don't appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you feel so I read the Lola Davina book, Thriving in Sex Work, and she talks about like physical labor and emotional labor of the job. Do you feel like the job is more like physically laborious, emotionally laborious?
It is a lot of emotional labor. That is one thing that people don't tell you. Like, so when you hear the the assholes that are screaming out, you're selling your body. And I'm like, trust me, I'm not. It is it's very emotionally laborious. Like, it really is. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, I'll be honest, I am because I am a very emotional person. After I have, like, if I have like a long date, like a dinner date or overnight date, I usually need like about like, a good day before I interact with people, like whether it's on the phone or anything, like other than talking to my mom, like I won't even go hang out with friends. Like I need to come home and I just kind of need to like reset myself because I do put in a lot of emotional energy because people think that we're just playing a part, like pretending like we care, but it's not true. I really do genuinely care about my clients, what they're going through. I mean, clients open up to us about some very personal things in their lives, struggles, whether it's work or with their
Yeah.
relationship. And I spend time, like it's like therapy for them. And people think it's just like, oh, you walk in, it's like wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And I'm like, no, nope, I mean, of course you have those guys that are like that, absolutely. But that's not really
Yeah.
the companion that I am. I definitely provide a better emotional service. And then we can, physically connect from that emotional part that we just had.
Do you feel like increasing your rates, your like emotional and physical labor like went up? Do you feel like there was a change in that?
Okay, so yes and no. So I will say my emotional labor went up, but in a good way because
Okay.
I got the better clients that are looking for an emotional connection and not just a physical connection. So for me, that worked out great for me. Now, there
Okay.
are companions that, emotional labor is not for them. They don't really want to be the therapist. Like I know a couple girls that are like, "Hey, I'm good with an hour, like hour in and out." Like I know some that have panic
Yeah.
attacks just thinking about having to go on a dinner date. So I will say for me, raising my rates made it better for me and the type of labor that I want to provide, but in a good way.
Okay.
I love doing the emotional support thing.
Okay, fuck yeah. I feel like that has to be fulfilling when you like kind of like somebody is able to open up to you and then you're able to help them with a problem and they leave like really just like feeling good.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like some clients that I don't want to say brand new to the industry, but they're new and they're still trying to figure out what they want from a companion, I should say. A lot of guys
Yeah.
seek out companions not knowing what they're looking
Yeah, I
for.
did. When I first started, I didn't really know. Like, I was like, am I really just like, is it strictly like a sex thing? Is it like an emotional connection? Is it intimacy? What the fuck is it? And then after talking to people, you realize like, oh, this is why I'm doing this thing. But a lot of people don't know that until you kind of like ask and like talk to people. You might be like, I don't know why I'm doing that. Like, I enjoy it, but I don't really know why I'm really the heart of why I'm doing this.
Right. And, I found that to be like a common factor with some clients. And they would, it's like they just didn't realize that they were missing that connection. Or, like just a lot of, marriage after so long,
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of roommates, right? And your
Yeah.
day-to-day action is, it's no longer about you, it's about the kids, it's about work, it's about everything other than just, like kind of the two of you together. So a lot of guys don't even realize they seek out companionship just because they just need something that isn't just like their day-to-day boring lives. And I shouldn't say
Yeah.
boring, but you know what I mean. The routine.
Yeah. You got to break the routine.
A lot of guys need that, and some won't even admit it to themselves, and I've gotten people to admit it. Like, just if you know why you're doing something, then do it, right?
I know, right? It makes it so much easier than
You're
like,
not lying to me, you're lying to yourself.
I'm
Yeah.
good at my job for a reason. Sometimes I help people realize things that they didn't even realize about themselves, and I'm like, hey, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah, I'm just helping you. I'm just making the world a better place, you know?
One
Fuck
date at a
yeah.
time.
Yeah. So you started the podcast. When you start the podcast?
We started the podcast in February 2018.
Fuck yeah. How was it until you left? How was it doing the podcast?
Oh man, I was prepared for this question. So, like I said before, I really did enjoy giving back to new companions because somebody had helped me. But I will say that it was really hard to grow as a personal brand when you're so
Yeah.
heavily associated with brands that that are bigger than yours. And the show
Yeah.
like kind of swallowed me, and of course my brand, and it was so much work, and that as being a podcaster yourself, right?
It's a lot.
So it was like a lot of work for very few long-term results. And because of that, it I got a lot of hate on social media, right?
Really? You got a lot of hate.
People are always like, oh, fuck the haters, it doesn't matter. But the brand like made it appear that I was much bigger and doing better than what I actually was. And that ended up
Okay.
having a huge like negative impact, like financially and mentally. People did
Oh,
not
okay.
know how much time I was putting into the show. It
Yeah.
affected my business, like my personal business. Like I did not have time to like really plan marketing, to really spend that much time on my website. Like I was doing all the tech work. So when I'm
Yeah.
done updating the website, like I want to get away from my computer. Like I've been editing the show for
Yeah.
hours, and I want, like, now I need a mental break. I need to get away from my computer. And then it's like, oh, now I got to go back on my computer to update stuff on my website. So, it just kind of got to be it got to be a bit much.
Until you do something, you don't realize how much work goes
Right.
into it. Like if you have an hour long podcast episode, most likely you spend at least three
Oh
times that
God. And
amount of
then
time
if
editing
there
that.
If
if
not
there are no
more.
technical issues, if there are technical issues, then like I remember one day there was like some issues with the audio, and I spent probably a good 8 hours on one episode. Just the editing,
Yeah.
making sure it sounded good. And it was just like it was a lot. And and then also I kind of feel like the show wasn't giving the accurate representation of like who I am as Chantel. And like kind of like
Okay.
we talked about before, like I feel like I'm still finding myself as my brand, and distancing myself away from the show was probably the best decision that I made. I mean, it was bittersweet, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we were releasing weekly episodes. We were writing a book. We were, having events.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
And people, for some reason, like I remember like on like people were sending me stuff online. I would just tell them like, just don't send me anything else. But people were sending me stuff where people thought that somehow we were making all this money from the show, and that's how we were financing our life. And I'm like, no, that's like not true. Like I actually started losing money being on the show. Like,
Oh, this show costs money.
I mean, the show costs money, but then I wasn't booked as much because it's like, there's what people don't tell you getting into it is all the marketing that's involved. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't have time to update my ads. I don't have time to be on Twitter all day. And so it's like my personal brand suffered, and, people would find me through the show, but that's not where I want my clients to find me. Like, it's like I don't want the
Okay.
show to be my advertising for me. That show was to help clients and companion navigate this world, not for me to just like
Yeah.
book clients. So yeah, it negatively impacted me financially because people thought, oh, she's doing this. And then there was drama online. Clients don't want drama. So it's like I was being dragged into drama just because just being on the show, and people had their opinions, and I'm very, very opinionated.
I don't know if you could
Yeah.
tell that. I'm very opinionated. I give zero fucks. And so I would, and because I'm emotional, I would just say things, and I respond. You say something to me, I will
Yeah.
respond and not even think about it. And then it looks like drama. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
in my like, personal companion life, not my Twitter life, like I don't care for the drama. Like I'm just like, hey, let's hang out, let's chill, let's talk about life and philosophy and the universe and whatever else there is. Drama isn't anything that I want to talk about. Like I'll
Yeah.
watch a drama. I don't want to be part of it, you know?
Yeah. For real.
So it's like it's one of those things that definitely was a, negative impact. But I will say, since leaving the show though, my companion life, my professional life, I've actually gotten back into some freelance work.
Okay.
I was
Nice.
practically begged out of retirement. I had a friend that was like, he knew somebody who's like, hey, this person has some issues going on with the business, and I really think you'd be the best person. I was like, I don't really have time. And, they give you that number that you can't refuse. So,
And you're like, well, hey, I got to do this
yeah,
shit.
so that is keeping me busy. But, but being on the show, I would not have been able to accept that.
Yeah.
Like, so basically, I consult now, not full time, but one project, this
Yeah.
particular project is very time consuming. So my companion life, my professional consulting life, and my personal life, I have a good balance between all of that now.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome.
So I don't regret leaving.
Fuck yeah. Where do you see yourself in like 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. So let me just take you back real quick to 5 years ago. 5 years ago, somebody asked me, well, when you're doing this, everybody always feels like you should have like an out date. Like nobody wants to be a companion forever. So when I started, I was like, all right, in 5 years, I see myself, retiring and everything. Well, come January 2020, my 5 years, and I was like,
Yeah.
shit's just getting good. I'm just now like becoming like the authentic, version of Chantel. I don't want to give it up now. Like things are going so great. I'm having fun, Can't wait to see what kind of dates I'm going to book now that people know that I'm a wrestling fan and that I love concerts.
Hell yeah.
Take me to the space launch, and I'm just such a like, my interest just drastically varies. Um so
Yeah.
5 years from now, um I will say that I do know that coming up and probably, over the next 5 years, I'm going to be more part-time as I work on other
Okay.
projects. One thing that I've learned about myself in life is that I have a problem with chronic boredom. And once I master things, I'm ready to move on to the next. So while companionship is exciting, I imagine that I'm probably going to be ready to move on. I will probably still always have some version of it in my life, rather, even beyond 5 years from now. But I see myself moving on to my other business ventures, traveling more, just doing other projects that I have like a notebook full of projects. Like this is all I do all
Nice.
day is think. And when I'm at home, just ideas pop into my head, and then it's like I don't have the time to do them. But now that I have more time, I've been starting to chip away a little bit at a time on some of these
Hell yeah.
projects. So I'm really excited for the next 5 years. I can't say exactly where I see myself in 5 years, only because a lot of it is not based on being a companion. But I don't know.
So
One day, maybe my both of my paths will cross. People who usually meet me, I hear all the time, you should write a book. And I'm like, why should I write a book? Like, am I going to write a book as my vanilla self, or am I going to write a book as Chantel? I'm like, there's
yeah.
enough sex work books out there. Like what am I going to say that's any different? But the people that know, me on both sides,
they're like, no, you should just like write an overall just book. So I'm like, well, then that means that I'm going to have to, implode my life. And so
Yeah.
I maybe I'll do it. I don't know. Maybe I will write a book. And then at that point, some of my personal projects won't be, that affected by being a companion.
Fuck
So
yeah.
who knows? Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, but I'm very excited to find out.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Are you a stand-up comedy fan at
I
all?
am. I'm a huge stand-up comedy
Ooh
fan.
boy.
I do like some of the big names. Don't get me wrong. I like Dave Chappelle. I like Gary Owens and Chris D'Elia. I like those big names, but I also find myself being like, I like the cult following of like some of the Facebook guys. Um,
Oh yeah.
what's his name? Steve Hofstetter. Is that his name?
Oh yeah, yeah. Steve
I
Hofstetter.
love his banter with the hagglers in the crowd. And people, people love to say that he sets it up. And I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. It's hilarious. And
Yeah.
Drew Lynch, he's
Fuck
really
yeah.
funny.
He's
He's
so funny.
adorable.
Super cute.
He's adorable.
And he's like so nice too. Like my buddy opened up for him, and he's like just like a genuinely nice person.
I like genuinely nice people. I could tell that about
Yeah.
him. So yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
huge, and then there are other names like, I don't know if anybody else has this problem with Facebook, but you'll watch a video and sometimes the comedy skits are, like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll like put my phone down and I'm, while I'm doing other things, and then I'll go to like the video or to go get their name, and then Facebook will like the app will shut down, and then I'll go back into it, and then I can't find the person. So
Oh
there's
yeah.
like a lot
Yeah.
of like the underground Facebook crowds that I watch, and that are just super funny. Some of the ones the Dry Bar Comedy, I think it is.
Oh yeah. I know a couple of my friends have done dry bar specials.
I follow it and I'm just like, oh, this is so great. Like some of these guys are really good. And I'm like, I can't wait for them to get a Netflix special.
Yeah.
I really do like a lot of comedy. Tiffany Haddish, I like her. Chelsea
So funny.
Handler, some of the other ladies. But yeah, the underground is, where people get their really good work.
That's where it's at. There's so many funny people that just like aren't popular. People don't know, but they're like so good. Like
My
it's
mom
incredible.
always tells me that I should be like, she's been telling me for like, I don't know, 15 years, you should do stand up. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear me talk.
Just start going to open mics. That's all you got to do.
I don't know. People say it, but it's like, it's one thing you're talking to friends and like a stand up routine. Am I really going to be that funny? I don't know.
Y'all got to improv in Tampa.
Oh, I know we do. I've been there many times. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but am I going to be funny? That's the thing. Like, right? It's like people say things. It's like, yeah, I can talk to you and you may think I'm funny, but am I funny enough to get up in front of a crowd? Like, the crowd may not think I'm funny. You may think I'm funny because you're my mom. Moms are always
Yeah.
supportive.
There's only one way to know. It's just like you just got to do it. That's the only way to know.
Maybe I'll do it one day. There are like things on my bucket list that I want to do just like as an experience. Whether it's great or I fail at it, I just want to do it as an experience. Being a D-list
Fuck yeah.
actress is one of them. And I've always wanted to be in a Lifetime movie or
Ooh.
Hallmark or Lifetime. I've always wanted to be in one of those. I should probably work on that. And doing like
Yeah.
one stand-up show, just one. I mean, if I just
Hell
happen to be good at it, I wouldn't mind continuing. But just at least just to cross off my bucket list, so maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll finally work up the nerve to go to Tampa Improv and do it. But who do I do? I do it as
yeah.
Chantel. I don't see. I don't know.
You can do it as whoever. You know?
I don't know. We'll see.
Fuck
We'll
yeah.
figure that out.
Hell yeah. Chantel, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
a good
much for
time.
having me. This is actually my very first time being interviewed solo about me and not about the podcast. So my
Oh,
very first
damn.
interview. So thank you.
Fuck yeah. Where can the people find you online?
Follow my Twitter. I'm at Chantel Chantel underscore Etoile Etoile. And my OnlyFans is the same exact handle, and so is my Instagram. So I'm available on all of those platforms.
Hell yeah, Chantel, I appreciate you coming on the podcast for Martinique. Fuck yeah. Thanks for coming on. It's a
Thank
good
you so
time.
much. And as always, guys, keep it sexy.
Fuck yeah, listeners. We will see you later. All right, bye. That was my interview with Chantel Etoile. Shout out Chantel. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. That was a good time. Also, shout out to Mr. M. Appreciate that, dude. Hey, hit me up. I got you a sticker. And also, really, anybody who wants a sticker, just DM me or something, and I'll send it. I got a lot of stamps, and a lot of envelopes, and a lot of stickers. So hit me up, and I got you. But no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. This has been episode 35. Chantel plugged it. I will plug it again. You can find her on Instagram, on Twitter, on OnlyFans at Chantel_Etoile. I'll have links to all of that in the Libsyn page. So go to the Libsyn page. Make sure you give her a follow. While you're there, give us a follow. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Full Service Pod. Like I said before, my personal Instagram and Twitter at Tank Funkadelic. If you want to be on the podcast, if you want to hear anything talked about on the podcast, if you want to share your experience, fullservicepod@gmail.com. Send me an email and we can make it happen. It'll be good. It'll be fun. But no, I appreciate you listening. If you enjoy the podcast, I plugged it at the beginning. Subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. We are on YouTube. We're on pretty much everywhere where you can find podcasts. But if you could give us a rating, write us a review, that would be beautiful. We're only we're still 35 episodes. Is that a new podcast still? It's been since October, but if you could write us a review, that would be incredibly helpful, just for visibility for podcasts. But no, it's episode 35. I really appreciate you being here. I got another interview next week. Ooh, boy, I'm excited. My guest is Lillian Moore. She's actually an Oakland-based escort. We recorded this back in, I guess, maybe the end of February, beginning of March. So it's been a little bit, but it's a good interview. I'm excited. As always, we'll be here every Tuesday. I hope everything's all right wherever you're at. It's crazy times. Corona is out there. I got some links in the Libsyn page. There's a GoFundMe for the workers, the employees at Goodnight's Comedy Club in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's also a GoFundMe for sex workers in New York, and also a link to the Philadelphia Sex Worker Fund. It is a fund in Philly you can donate to. There are grants available from $50 to $900. If you're a Philly sex worker, all you have to do, fill out the form on the Google site, and they'll get back to you. And that's put on by the Philadelphia Red Umbrella Alliance as well as Project Safe. But yeah, it's episode 35. It's done. It's in the books. I appreciate y'all being here. We'll be here every Tuesday till the end of time. I'll see you there. Full service.